During that fall of 2010, I just started feeling sick.
Yeah, little things started to bother him. Sinus infection or a cold, and he wasn't himself.
So the next morning I woke up, normal time, very early, go to get ready, and I was in the shower
and I hear, Aimee, I need to go to the hospital now. And I stopped. I'm like, do I need to call an ambulance now? Like, what's going on?
And it was because I was in the shower and I couldn't see. So Aimee drove us to the emergency room and at George Washington Hospital in Washington, D.C. And pretty soon they said, you have leukemia. And within 2 hours, they were doing a bone marrow biopsy on me.
As they were putting him in his room and getting him set up, I left to go to the bathroom. Not 3 minutes later, I came back and thought I'd walked into the wrong room because it was a surgical suite. He was apparently so sick that they didn't understand how he was alive. So I realized it was his room, and then I walked out and I started crying uncontrollably. Like I just felt like my whole world was like sinking into the floor, and I started walking laps on the floor while they were in there putting in his port. And I'm crying, and this very nice woman came up to me and she's like, dear, what's wrong? Like, you look like you need someone right now. I'm like, my husband has leukemia. I can't believe this. I have young children. He's never gonna fly again. I can't believe this. And I was catastrophizing, right? Like, I saw my entire life with Ryan like flashing before my eyes. And this was before I even really understood the sickness. I just knew that they told us he was critically ill. And, kindness of strangers, she's like, dear, you need to try to think in the moment, plan for the moment, take a deep breath, and go back in there and be with your husband. And I never saw her again, but I did one more lap around the hospital floor. I took a deep breath. I went back in. I stopped crying. And you were starting to look good because they'd ordered you blood.
My blood level was so low, they put several pints of blood in me, and it was, talk about like feeling like Superman. And it was a week later that I was getting promoted from major to lieutenant colonel. My career to that point, I'd done a lot of the things that I'd wanted to do, and I had already gotten an offer to go back to flying F-15s to go be an operations officer, which I was over the moon about. It was great. And so the first thing I thought is, oh my goodness, now I can't go be an operations officer. And I thought, wow, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to fly F-15s again. And then it was, as I peeled back the layers of, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to fly again. I don't know if I'm gonna be in the Air Force anymore. And then it was, I don't know if I'm going to survive this. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to see my kids graduate grade school, let alone high school and college. And then, as Aimee said, I don't know if my younger son, I don't know if he's gonna remember me.
That was really sad. That was really sad.
May of 2011, went back to work, but now I started going through the whole Air Force process, where I wasn't sure I was gonna stay in the Air Force. And then when that came back and they said, you're gonna stay in the Air Force, I was very thankful. So the next thing I was like, can I fly airplanes again? And said, well, we're gonna have to go for a flight waiver. So I went to Texas for training, drove back into Washington, D.C., and I went straight to Bethesda to go see my oncologist.
And Ryan's mom said, why don't you go too? I'll watch the boys. I'm like, oh, that'd be wonderful. Thank you. I'd love to go say goodbye and thank the oncologist. So Ryan drives right to Bethesda. I meet him there. We go up. We're excited.
Talk with the oncologist. The movers are showing up the next day. Change of commands in about a week. We're really just there to say goodbye and thank you.
Kids yet? Like, we're just, thank you for everything you've done for us.
And we're about to get up and leave, and he says, hold on, let me just check your blood work, the test we did.
Because before every appointment, they do the blood work.
And he looks at it, and I think for a minute he is joking because he pauses, and then he says, stays paused.
He pauses, and then he says, I'm afraid we have a problem. We're sitting in his office, and he said, I'm afraid you've relapsed. And so I left the room, went out into the hallway, and I couldn't keep it together. Like, I am just sobbing uncontrollably. Like, and you don't want to be a public spectacle, right? But there was no way I could control it. And I'll never forget, this woman came up to me and she said, "Honey, I'm going to hug you. Is that okay?" And I'm like, "Yes." And she did. And it helped calm me down. And so I paced back and forth while you were having the biopsy. And then it was confirmed.
So I remember driving home.
We drove home.
And then
We had the kids sit on the back porch, and it was absolutely heartbreaking because, "Dad, you're home, we're gonna move, the movers are coming." And, you know, I was taking pictures because that's what we always do when Dad comes home, and I knew we were gonna tell them. And so we told them, and Ryan was hugging them, and then he had to tell his parents who were there to help us. The next morning,
we got up and we were going to the hospital.
As the movers were literally backing into our driveway to unload boxes.
So that started the next hospital journey, which was lots of chemo to get back into remission.
They do the initial bone marrow, and it comes back that he still has leukemia. And at this point, I'm starting to, like, feel extreme stress, right? Because I know, like, the chances of survival, if they even chose to transplant him when he was not in remission, were very, very minimal. So they said, "No, wait, one more week, and then we'll do a repeat." And it came back, and he was in remission.
So ended up doing going with an experimental procedure using umbilical cord stem cells.
Then, you know, it's clear that he's staying engrafted. So then he takes on the doctor, right? So the doctor's all super excited because he's engrafted. He's the first patient. And he says, so when can I go home? And the doctor looks at me, I'm like, "No."
Amy's behind me doing
I can't take care of him. Like, you can't send him home yet, you know, because he's throwing up. I mean, he can't walk. Like, he literally cannot walk from here to the other wall of our living room. Well, Ryan had other plans, and apparently he was very persuasive.
One of the things you need to do after a transplant is move around and walk. And that was the last thing I wanted to do. To get up from my bed, to walk from the bedroom to the living room, and then I would lay down on the couch and take a nap. That was how tired I was.
It was. And so, I don't know, like 3 or 4 days afterwards, I finally bring it up with the doctor. I'm like, "I don't think he's getting enough exercise." And she looks at him and she says to him, "If you're trying to tell me that walking from your car to here is enough exercise, then no, he's not getting enough exercise." And so I ratted him out. And but then the cute thing is I enlisted the children to walk with their dad.
And so each day they would have me walk a little bit more and a little bit more.
Yeah.
And eventually got to the point where it felt somewhat normal. So we spent about the next 9 months down in Houston, came back to Washington, D.C., and did the same process all over again. Medical evaluation board, am I even going to stay in the Air Force? And then a flying evaluation board. I will tell you that during this process of figuring out what was important to me, realizing that Aimee and the kids were the center, and as long as we were together, it was good, and everything else was gravy.
And you know, the thing that's amazing is it's now 5 years post-transplant, and each year we get further away from it. I stop looking him up and down every time he coughs. We realize how lucky we are, but we also it kind of recedes, you know, like when life hits you hard, you know, there is hope, you know. I mean, we've made it.
Absolutely. We made it through. Yeah. And it was an up and down, feeling like the rug was pulled out a couple times, but that's what resilience is about. How you handle it, figuring out what's important to you.
You're important.
You're important to me too.